Next on Life Focus.
In our life, we're just drawn to certain things, and mine just happened to be violence.
A look into the lives of convicted criminals.
The more pain you can inflict on somebody, the more their undivided attention you get.
See, criminals are real selfish. They take from you, take. Take your land, take your house, take your body, take the money, take whatever they want.
Hopelessness, the hardship of believing it's a possibility that I might die in prison. It just ripped me from the inside.
From the inside of these hardened hearts to the outside of these prison walls, changes are being made.
Well, we try to create an environment of giving and sharing. Our philosophy is going to be proactive and not just be reactive.
And I see them as a fellow brother. It's who you are inside, not the outward reflection or the specific place you're at that makes you who you are.
On this edition of Life Focus.
Hello, welcome to Life Focus. I'm Dan Meyer. According to the U.S. Department of Justice, in the year 2000, there were over 1,000 federal, state, and local prisons operating in the United States. That's a 73% increase over 1974. At any one time, these prisons house over 2.2 million inmates, people whose crimes range from petty to horrific. Today, we'll take a look into the lives of criminals confined within the walls of the Louisiana State Penitentiary, a maximum security prison known to house many who have committed such horrifying crimes that they will never see life beyond prison walls.
Here at St. John's Baptist Church in Angola, musicians practice for their next worship service.
I don't believe in a black church. I don't believe in a white church. I believe that we're all God's people.
Sidney DeLoach is the first and only pastor of this all-men's congregation.
We're all on equal ground, on level ground. And my dream, my vision has always been to have a multicultural, multiracial church. And that's exactly what we have now.
It's a church located inside the Louisiana State Penitentiary.
I preach the funerals here when somebody dies.
He says that his job description goes beyond weekly services.
I'm an inmate lawyer on death row, and that's a ministry in itself. Because a lot of times on death row, what those men need, you won't find in a law book. A lot of times those men just need a confident word. Sometimes they need a listening ear. Sometimes they just need to know that somebody cares.
And nobody can understand what it means to face life and death in prison more than Pastor DeLoach.
Thank you, sir.
He's serving a life sentence at what's known as America's bloodiest prison here in Angola, Louisiana. Today, he lives to tell anyone who will listen how he went from being a thug on the streets to a man of the cloth.
Everybody talked about Angola, and it was a bloody place.
Sidney DeLoach is serving time for rape and second-degree murder.
And you would see men get stabbed all the time, fighting all the time.
Sidney remembers the day in 1978 when he first walked into this prison.
Young cats were getting turned out, getting raped.
In its 100 years of operation, Angola became known as a violent place, in part due to the criminal backgrounds of its prisoners.
I'm here for second-degree murder.
I'm here for second-degree murder.
I killed somebody.
Adding to the violence was the cruel and harsh treatment of the inmates.
The first thing I saw when I came in here was a guy on a gurney.
Donald Biermann is a lifer. He'll never get out. He remembers how violence between the guards and inmates was a common occurrence.
They would carry inmates that were injured to the hospital. And that was the first thing that I passed when I came in here was a guy who had been stabbed.
In 1952, more than 30 prisoners actually cut their Achilles tendons to protest the cruelty to which they had been subjected.
You would see men get stabbed all the time, fighting all the time. They had stretchers on the wall. They were running, carrying men to the hospital, trying to save lives.
Sidney has already served 28 years behind bars. He says he's seen the worst.
Mad men, didn't care about nothing and nobody.
He managed to stay out of trouble, but every day living still terrorized him.
It was a terrible, terrible place. It was a condemned place.
In prison, men get raped, young men who are afraid.
And that's all this place was made of. Killers, cutthroats.
They have their possessions stolen. They pay extortion. Sometimes their families even wind up paying these things in the name of their children being protected.
You know, I had an execution 3 months after I got here. Then I had a murder, I had several escapes. This is a crazy place.
The last thing Burl Cain wanted to do was become the warden here at the bloodiest prison in America.
Blood somewhere, you know, it was somebody hit with a lock in the sock or all kind of stuff. It's just crazy.
When he arrived 25 years ago, others warned him of the dangers inside these prison walls.
There's always something bad happening here with the type inmates, and so I feel like there's demons in this place.
Angola sits nestled on more than 18,000 acres of agricultural land. Yet despite its calm appearance, inmates and guards have seen horror after horror.
It wasn't unusual for me to be involved in breaking up as many as 2 or 3 knife fights in a single day.
Major Paul Myers came into Angola's security team at the height of the unrest.
Yes, we had to subdue, bring people under restrictions, cuff, shackle, put them in cell block. There was a lot of violence during them days.
The prison boiled over with mistrust and animosity, especially between guards and inmates. Respect was a virtue left outside the prison walls. Extreme cruelty, that became the discipline of choice.
One of the wardens that was here then, his motto was, I'm going to work them, but you're going to feed them. And whenever he said that, that's what he meant. There's been many times that men would go to bed with their boots still on and get up in the morning and go back to work because they were so exhausted. He believed that if you got us tired enough, then we wouldn't fight with each other. Was that true? Absolutely not.
That philosophy backfired, and the prisoners routinely went to incredible lengths to escape the inhumane treatment that went along with their daily work details.
They would take a couple dominoes, a hairbrush, and a brogan, a big old heavy shoe, and they'd break their fingers, or they might break a toe, cut a toe off. I mean, this was something to get out of the work because it was so grueling. It was physical.
The days of inhumane treatment ended when Burl Cain took over and brought in a new philosophy for running the prison.
It was a matter of survival for all of us, and you know, even for my administration, and personally, you know, I didn't want to get fired. I didn't want to lose my job. I was too young at the time, and so I wanted to be successful, and I felt like with God's divine intervention and that we could.
San Quentin, Alcatraz, and Sing Sing are among the most infamous prisons in America. They've housed some of the most violent offenders our nation has produced. The Louisiana State Penitentiary in Angola also belongs on this list. For over 100 years, LSP has been home to an assortment of murderers, drug dealers, and rapists.
I've been here since I was 19. I'm 36 now, and I'm here for second-degree murder.
Ron Hicks' first and only exposure to prison began here.
Being 19 years old, and I'm thinking, I never started living life yet. And I can remember that day so clearly, I'll never forget it, when he told me that I went back to my cell. And I was in tears, I was broke.
A cell wall might have broken him, but beyond the steel bars, brutality ruled. A place where survival of the fittest has real meaning.
And I came here, and the very first day I remember coming out to go to work, and this fight break out. And I'm like, man, I'm in this situation, never did time before, never experienced being incarcerated. And my first day in prison, this happened. And so I'm looking into myself of what I can do. So my first day of prison was like, ooh, it was very dark.
Ron Hicks grew up many miles from this kind of hatred. He was one of 5 children raised in a middle-class neighborhood by hardworking parents. But Ron loved his risky teenage activities a little too much.
I was really off into having fun and just, you know, just wilding out, drinking and smoking, sex and different things.
Things like marijuana. He became a user and a dealer, and soon found himself tangled in a life of crime.
Anytime you get a person in an environment that money is involved, then you got everything else that come with it. Guns are involved in it. people that are of that mentality that I'm not going to let anybody take anything from me. If somebody takes something from me, then I got to respond to it, or I'll look weak, or people continue to jack me or use me for the things that I got.
His street mentality and the actions that came with it landed 19-year-old Ron behind bars for second-degree murder.
My parents never planned for me to come to prison. I failed. I failed my parents. I just failed across the board.
What's it like to live in a cell?
Closed in, limited, not able to do for yourself like you want to. Because in a cell, you have to really rely upon everything come to you.
Ron and other prisoners live under very strict routines. They rise at 5 a.m., lights out at 11 p.m. Guards monitor all activities, meals, work, and even watching television. For a young man used to freedom, jail forced Ron's mind to wander back to the events that brought him here.
Can you imagine going in a circle over and over? It's almost like a dog chasing his tail. You're never really able to end it.
Known simply by the nickname Carolina, Donald Biermann's journey to Angola began as a young child.
There was a lot of anger. The bitterness and the anger turned into hate, and then the hate turned into indifference.
He grew up in a rough neighborhood where fists overruled words.
The men where I grew up at, they were fighters. I mean, these were tough men. So the kids got the recognition by which kid could fight the best.
And fighting the best led Carolina to establish this motto for his life.
I learned at a very early age that if you want to get somebody's full and undivided attention, you inflict severe pain on them, and you get their full and undivided attention.
The violence, combined with a growing dependency on drugs and alcohol, spun Carolina into a cycle of crime.
I started stealing cars and burglarizing, and one thing just led to another.
It led to his arrest for armed robbery, and due to his long list of prior convictions, the judge sentenced Carolina to serve at the bloodiest prison in America.
Coming to Angola the first time, the thing that I noticed was the indiscriminate violence.
And violence provided Carolina the perfect opportunity to establish his reputation.
The first thing you have to establish is that I'm a man and I'm not a coward. You see, I'm not weak. I will fight and I can fight. This sounds almost like an old cliche. You find the biggest and the baddest guy around and you guff him in the mouth and you take your lick. I mean, you know, it's just that simple. I had a lot of fun here. That really sounds morbid, it sounds insane, and it really is.
80% of inmates serving time in Angola will never leave. Carolina was released in 1993. He was one of the fortunate few.
As a free man, as I stood at the front gate waiting for him to open the gate, I knew then for the first time in my life that I was entering into a place that I was out of my element.
By his own admission, Carolina had become a career criminal. He'd spent most of his young life locked away from the rest of society. He didn't take well to his newfound freedom.
I got back into drinking and drugs and just generally ripping and running and doing those things that are not conducive to a good family living.
It took less than 6 years before Carolina earned his second stint at Louisiana State Penitentiary. And this time, he would be in for the rest of his life.
This time here is I killed somebody. I didn't, the circumstances are irrelevant. I'm convicted of second-degree murder. I didn't just go out there and kill somebody. This actually, I didn't mean for this to happen, it just did. And when it did, it escalated, it got all blown out of proportion by me. You see, I made more bad decisions.
In a way, Carolina looked forward to the chaos and violence that he was returning to, an environment where he once flourished.
When I left here, they were still fighting pretty much every day.
But to his shock, the Louisiana State Penitentiary had changed.
When I came back in '99, that atmosphere of violence was no longer here.
Angola had changed dramatically under the leadership of a new young warden.
Moral rehabilitation is what it's all about.
Warden Cain had begun the onerous task of creating a new, healthy atmosphere for the prisoners and the prison staff.
Is that Daddy didn't permit talking while he was preaching.
We try to create an atmosphere like the real world because these inmates have such horrendously long sentences and have done such horrible crimes, you know, that many of them should die in prison. But, you know, I think prison should be a place for predators and not dying old men who rehabilitated.
And rehabilitation in the center of chaos would not come easy. With an inmate population of 5,100 hardened criminals, Cain began to transform men one at a time with a revolutionary new philosophy.
He gives you the mind that you're using to think.
You know, we got to be fair. We can't get this old run over your attitude and get out of my face attitude. I don't have time to talk to you. You know, then we interact and we meet their needs and we have good food, good medicine, good play, and good praying. You have a good prison. We're not going to ignore you when you say you're hurt, and we're going to take care of you.
Warden Cain is making sure that even though violence is on the upswing in the streets of America, that is not the case at the Louisiana State Penitentiary in Angola. The state's only maximum security prison, once known as the bloodiest in America, has been transformed.
Miss Parker, can you open it, please, ma'am?
And not be able to just be free to go where you want to. That's the punishment. We're not to torment them. We're not to punish them.
But many doubted that Cain could soften these hardened criminals' hearts.
See, criminals are real selfish. They take from you. Take. Take your land, take your house, take your body, take the money, take whatever they want.
So as Angola's new warden, Cain did away with harsh punishments and introduced positive reinforcement as a way to reshape the prisoners.
Well, we try to create an environment of giving and sharing.
Cain's concept included providing meaningful work in what for many has become a meaningless existence.
Everybody has a job, and they can move up and have better jobs in relation to their skill and their behavior.
For most prisoners, that means starting out in one of the most difficult jobs at the prison, working in the fields, tending acres of crops like okra, rice, and cotton.
That's a job that I don't want to go back to. And I made up my mind when I came out of the field and got a job. I said, that's it. I'm not going back out there.
After spending 2 years in the field, Hicks could participate in other opportunities, such as technical school, automotive, paint and body shop, and horticulture classes.
Yeah. Good afternoon. This is KLSP 91.7. The station that kicks behind the bricks.
Incarcerated for 13 years, Walter Diggs worked his way up to DJ for this one-of-a-kind radio station.
The incarceration station, the only one in the nation. God bless you and God keep you. Hooty-hoo! Well, when I first come through the gates, I guess you could say I was nervous for one thing. I had no idea what it would be like. You know, even all the stories that I have heard are concerning Angola, but I had no real idea what it really would be like.
He's serving a sentence for second-degree murder.
You know, my mindset was already knowing that I had to do the time. So my mindset was to come in here and to just do anything that I can on the positive side.
Involvement at this radio station helps him forget about life on the other side of these walls.
You know, when my family tell me goodbye, you know, and that's one of the hardest parts after visiting. You know, you when they say goodbye, you know you're in prison.
When he leaves, this job will prepare him for a future career.
Well, I wanna get off into the music industry. I want to be a producer because I sing right now.
But Cain boasts that one class seems to benefit inmates the most.
I have a hard time overcoming that, as a matter of fact.
The New Orleans Baptist Theological College partners with Angola Penitentiary to educate inmates about the Christian faith. These courses have the potential to change hardened prisoners into ordained pastors.
As I'm sharing, I'm sharpening myself up. And that's how my spiritual growth took place, you know, and it was wonderful.
Inmate minister Ron Hicks graduated from the program. He now pastors a congregation of 200 at one of the 6 churches located within the prison walls.
And we know that we'll make mistakes, but the Bible says we lack wisdom.
He's got a big following of inmates. They go to church, they preach, they pray. They pray hard. They're on the side of righteousness. They realize they may not get out of here, but this is their home.
All right, how was that service last night that we had? When they look at me and say, I can relate to him, they see me when I'm down. They see me in the midst of my struggles, they see all those things.
Clearly, they changed because once we started going to the Bible college, and then we finally graduated our preachers, and they started creating change within the prison. It's just like being an alcoholic. You get changed from inside.
He's at a moment now in his life where he needs friends.
One of the 86 graduates from this prison's theology class, Sidney DeLoche, says these days he spends less time in the pulpit and more time counseling those who are dying or on death row.
We kind of look out for one another. You know, we don't allow someone to come in and destroy what we're building up here. See, this is no longer just a prison. This is a community. It's a society now. We have dignity and respect now.
Since Warden Burl Cain's appointment to this facility, the bloodiest prison in America has changed. Cain has documented less violence, and that's actually good news for officers and for inmates. And ultimately, it helps the taxpayers too.
You don't have as many hospital bills, you don't have as much going to court with all this violence. We saw the violence go down as the church attendance went up, 43%.
More importantly, those who leave these prison grounds are less likely to return.
So it was all about making a safe environment, and we are public safety. And we're called corrections, which means correct, which means if we release somebody from jail, let's hope he's corrected, rehabilitated, don't come back, which means there's not another victim. So everybody wins.
Men are ready now to go back out and change their communities, take the drugs off the street.
And for prisoners who can never leave, Cain's redemption provides them with a reason to live.
I didn't have the opportunity to live a life on the outside that was wholesome.
And helping people like Ron to find value in his life is the hallmark of Burl Cain's remarkable administration.
If they're looking for blood and guts, it's no longer that.
I want to thank him for how he brought me.
These hands, once used to cause harm, are now used to encourage and uphold one another. Many believe this is Cain's legacy, not only to his prison, but to other facilities around the country.
Oh, our legacy is not going to be bricks and mortar, but what's in the souls of these men that's here. All the preachers, all the evangelists, everybody that came here contributed to what this prison is. I'm just a tiny speck. I just enabled a lot of it to happen, but I didn't do it. And I think that's the real blessing.
It's the positive changes happening at the Louisiana State Penitentiary that have other prisons interested in adopting similar programs. In fact, LSP has transferred several inmate ministers to other institutions across the country in the hope of taming those environments too. In Angola, the faith-based programs are gaining popularity, and that is leading to a better place to live. And that's important, especially when you consider that most will never leave. That's all for today's edition of Life Focus. From all of us here, I'm Dan Meyer. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again next time.
More information about this program can be found online at www.lifefocus.tv. The title of today's program is on the screen.
Men have much calmer now, they're much peaceful. Men have begun to interact, men get along.
They realize they may not get out of here, but this is their home, and while they're here, do the best you can with it.
Nevertheless, we're still doing constructive, productive, beneficial time. We're no longer serving time, we're allowing our time to serve us.
They go to church, they preach, they pray. They pray hard.
It's no longer the bloody, bloody prison that it was. It's still bloody, but it's covered with the blood of Jesus.
More information about this program or other Life Focus episodes can be found online at www.lifefocus.tv. Pricing and ordering information for a DVD copy of this program are available on our website or by phone at 1-877-908-5433. The title of today's program is on the screen.